Most people think building wealth comes down to how much money you make. It does not. It comes down to what you do with the money you already have every single day. Stick with me for the next few minutes because I am going to walk you through a system that quietly separates people who retire comfortable from people who work their entire life and still come up short. This is not about luck. It is not about a high salary. It is about one decision you make once and then never have to make again. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly why two people earning the same income can end up decades apart financially. The real enemy is not money. Here is something nobody tells you. Your biggest financial enemy is not a lack of income. It is your own mood on any given day. Some days you feel motivated and you save. Other days you feel tired or stressed and you spend without thinking. That inconsistency is the reason most people never build real wealth, even when they earn a good living. The system I am about to show you was built to solve exactly this problem. Keep watching because this next part is where it gets interesting and it is simpler than you think. The simple system that changes everything. Instead of relying on willpower every single day, picture this. A small, fixed amount of money leaves your account automatically the moment you get paid. It goes straight into a broad market index fund before you ever see it or get the chance to spend it. You never make the decision twice. You make it once, and the system runs itself for years. This is exactly how people with average incomes end up with extraordinary results. It has nothing to do with picking the perfect stock. It has everything to do with consistency. And consistency is something anyone in this country can control starting today, no matter what you currently earn. The myth of needing a lot of money to start. A lot of people convince themselves they need thousands of dollars sitting around before they can start investing. That belief alone keeps millions of people stuck for years doing nothing. In reality, the amount you start with matters far less than the fact that you started at all. A modest weekly contribution set up today is worth more than a large contribution you keep promising yourself you will make someday. Someday rarely comes. Automation removes the need for someday entirely because the decision is already made for you. Stay with me because the numbers coming up next will show you exactly why starting small still leads somewhere massive. What happens when you remove the decision? Let me show you why this matters so much. If you invest a modest amount automatically every single week into a diversified fund, tracking the broader market, and you leave it alone for 3 decades, the math becomes almost hard to believe. A disciplined investor who never touches the account and never tries to time the market tends to end up with a result many multiples higher than what they actually put in. This is not a prediction about any single stock. It is simply how long-term market growth combined with consistent contributions has historically behaved. Stay with me because the comparison coming up next is where most people realize what they have been missing. Now picture the opposite path. Someone saves that exact same amount of money every week, but instead of investing it, they leave it sitting in a regular bank account, earning almost nothing. After 30 years, the difference between these two people is not small. It is not double. In many cases, it is closer to 5 or even 10 times the difference depending on market conditions over that period. Same income, same discipline to save. Completely different result. The only variable that changed was where the money was allowed to grow. This single choice is quietly responsible for more financial inequality among hardworking people than almost anything else. Keep this in mind for what comes next. because it only gets more interesting from here. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Nobody fails at building wealth because they are lazy or bad with money. They fail because they are relying on willpower, and willpower runs out. You cannot manually decide to save money every single day for 30 straight years without ever slipping. Life gets busy. Emergencies happen. Motivation fades. This is exactly why automation beats discipline every single time. When the decision is made once and the system handles the rest, there is nothing left to forget and nothing left to talk yourself out of. This is the real secret behind people who seem to build wealth effortlessly. It was never effortless. It was automatic. Keep that word in mind because it comes up again in a moment. The compound effect. Most people underestimate. The reason automation works so well is that it gives compounding the one thing it needs most, which is time. In the early years, the growth looks slow and honestly a little boring. Most people quit right around this stage because it does not feel like it is working. But somewhere around year 15 or 20, the curve stops looking like a straight line and starts climbing sharply. The money your money already earned begins earning its own money. This is the exact stage most people never reach, simply because they stopped a few years too early. The ones who stay quiet and consistent are the ones who eventually see the dramatic part of the curve. I want to be completely honest with you here. Investing is not free of risk, and nobody should pretend markets only go up. But there is a second trap that quietly drains far more wealth than market swings ever could, and that trap is mindless spending disguised as self-reward. You see an ad telling you to treat yourself. You buy something because it feels good in the moment. Then 6 months later, that item means nothing to you and the money is simply gone. The people who build real wealth are not people who never enjoy their money. They are people who ask one simple question before spending. Will this still have value to me later, or does it disappear the moment I use it? Stay with me, because this next part ties everything together. Most financial advice online is designed to be exciting rather than useful. Nobody wants to hear that boring consistency wins in the end, because it does not get clicks. But every real story of financial independence follows the same quiet pattern. Automatic contributions, a long time horizon, almost no emotional decision-making along the way. The people living this system are not glamorous on social media. They are not flashing new cars or vacations every week. They are simply patient and consistent while everyone around them chases the next trend. 30 years later, the gap between these two groups is not close. It is massive, and it is almost entirely explained by this one habit. So what does this mean for you sitting here today? It means the single most powerful financial decision available to almost anyone is not a secret stock tip or a risky bet. It is setting up one automatic transfer into a diversified long-term investment and then getting out of your own way. Small and steady beats large and occasional every single time, because steady contributions catch every recovery the market ever makes. You do not need a huge salary to start. You need a system that does not depend on your mood or your motivation on any random Tuesday. That is the whole secret, and it has been sitting in plain sight the entire time. There is one more mistake worth mentioning before we wrap up, because it quietly undoes everything we just talked about. It happens when the market drops and people panic and pull their money out at the worst possible moment. The system only works if you let it run through the bad years, and not just the good ones. Every single investor who has ever built serious wealth this way lived through multiple painful downturns along the way. They did not sell. They kept contributing the same amount on the same schedule, even when it felt uncomfortable. That single habit of staying the course during a downturn is often the real difference between the people who reach their number and the people who almost got there and gave up. Keep this in mind because it matters just as much as starting in the first place. Everything you just heard comes down to one decision. You can keep relying on willpower and hope today is a good day. Or you can build a system once that quietly works in the background for the next 30 years, regardless of how you feel. Investing always carries risk, and past growth never guarantees future results. So please do your own research and consider speaking with a licensed financial professional before making decisions with your money. But the underlying principle here is simple, and it is proven. Automate the good decision once and let time do the rest. If this changed the way you think about saving, make sure you are subscribed, because the next video breaks down exactly how to set this system up step by step.